Hi, I'm Dr. Nadine Wong. Would you like to know the expression of a man? Well, join me on the Now Talk Show. The Now Talk Show is an intimate conversation with men to highlight the pivotal awakening from his past that has brought him from trials into triumph. Now, the Now Talk Show will be sponsored by the Alabaster Wellness Clinic. Please stay.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are watching from. I am Dr. Nadine Wong. Welcome to the Now Talk Show. The Now Talk Show has another distinguished guest to express. Oh my goodness, it's going to be a great show, like all the shows before. This distinguished gentleman, his name is Mr. Veney Cochran. He's here to express the heart of himself. So we welcome to the Now Talk Show, Mr. Veney Cochran. Please join us.
Hello, Dr. Wong. Hello.
Hello, and again, thank you so very much for accepting our invitation to be on the Now Talk Show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll reintroduce him again. Oh my goodness, this man's bio is just so warming. Again, we welcome Mr. Veney Cochran. Thank you again for coming on the Now Talk Show.
Thank you. It's definitely a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Thank you. So I made mention that your bio is quite warm and is quite thick. But most importantly, please tell us who is Veney Cochran? Where were you raised and how were you raised?
Awesome. Well, um, born and raised in South Jamaica Queens, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Raised primarily by my grandmother with the youngest of five.
Okay.
So my mother and father were there, but it was my grandmother who raised us. Hardworking individual who gave her all, for us five to do and become whatever it is that we wanted to become. And one of my, I guess you can say, one of my reasons for doing a lot of the things that I've done,
Mm-hmm.
even though she's passed now, was to definitely make her proud of the work that she had put into me and my brothers and sisters. So again, raised in South Jamaica Queens, decided to join the military after high school, joined the United States Marine Corps, served 30 years in the Marine Corps,
Mm-hmm.
went just about everywhere you could possibly think of,
Mm-hmm.
overseas, East Coast, West Coast. I think about 18 different countries, combat tours, and then retired in 2016, and actually realized then, after the full 30 years in the military, I think I really realized, what my purpose was supposed to be, which was to be a speaker so that I could, help mentor and coach young adults to find their best selves and become the leaders that they were meant to be.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay. So let's get in the meat and potatoes. Your grandmother raised you and you
Yeah.
had siblings. What was the relationship like with your siblings? Were you like a person who had a vision and your siblings were pro vision, or were they share the relationship between you and your siblings?
I've always had a great relationship with all of my siblings. Again, being the youngest of five, I have two older sisters, and
Mhm.
then two brothers, and one of my brothers passed away. But our relationship was always close. My older sister, who lives with me now,
Mhm.
was like that second mom. When my grandmother wasn't there, mom wasn't there. She was there to help do and provide anything that we needed. So it's actually, it was a great blessing for me to be able to move her in with us here,
Right.
at the house. Because again, she's always been there to support me, just like all my brothers and sisters were always supportive.
Wow, well, that's great. Being a younger child, it's almost persons will brand you as, are you spoiled or just really loved? I like to say loved because they say that
Yes.
about me. Would you agree?
I would 100% agree. And, some would say, if they looked at me in my younger days, a lot would have labeled me as being spoiled, but again, it was nothing but love.
Yes, I would agree with you on that. I definitely would agree with you on that. So you were raised in Jamaica, in the south side of Jamaica in Queens. What was that
Yes.
environment like between home and, getting an education or socializing with persons of your pair?
It was interesting
Mm,
because at my time of junior high school, unfortunately, that was around the same time that unfortunately crack cocaine came on the scene. So
okay.
there was a lot of drugs going on in my neighborhood. And of course, I didn't want to be a part of it. So I was looking for ways to be different, to set myself apart from everyone else. I was very fortunate in high school to be accepted to a program called the co-op program.
Oh,
And
yes.
what that enabled me to do was go to school for a week and then go to
Mm,
work for a week. And I was, again, very fortunate. I worked at a very prestigious law firm in Manhattan, New York.
mm-hmm.
And this was a law firm that was actually going to pay for me to go to college to
Okay.
become a lawyer, because initially that's what I wanted to do. But ultimately I saw, how much work they were putting in and how little time they had with their families. And it's something that I decided I really didn't want to do. And then an incident changed my life completely. I was the victim of a drive-by shooting uh,
Okay.
where I was wounded in the leg. Nothing serious, but it made me really think about what my choices and my options were. And very shortly after that, literally a couple days, maybe a week later, I was in the recruiter's office telling him that I just wanted to leave New York. I wanted to leave as soon as possible. And at that point, I really didn't care what job they gave me, but I signed up to be military police at the time.
Wow. Oh, wow. So you got shot.
Yes,
Oh my
before
goodness.
going into the military.
Oh. Oh my goodness. So, okay, then let's share with us the training. Now you're in the military. What was that transition like? You already determined to be there. Now, did you realize the moment you signed, what did you sign up for? Or give us that transition.
Well, it was interesting because, again, being the youngest of five, and I was a very small kid. I didn't realize it till afterwards when I looked at all of my enlistment papers. I was only 113 pounds when I went into the military. So a
Oh, wow.
very small kid. So when I initially told my family, they didn't really believe me. They
Mhm.
didn't think that I was going. It wasn't until that morning when the recruiter came to pick me up at about 4 o'clock in the morning where it really set in with the family. So, there were a lot of tears, but I headed out. I did what I had to do at recruit training for 3 months,
Mhm.
came back and started my journey, which I only thought was going to be 4 years. My goal was to go in, do 4 years, get
Mhm.
out, become a police officer in New York City. And that
And that
obviously
is
changed.
obviously. So please share the obvious awakening moment for you.
Well, the first thing that happened is um, just short of my full third year in the military, going into my fourth year. The military sent me to Japan for a year. So
Okay.
that kind of put a damper in my plans of being able to take the New York City police test and, being able to go back and forth and do all the things that I wanted to do. So I figured, I'll sign up for another 4 years, be close to New York. And I was stationed at a place called Quantico, Virginia, which
Mhm.
is only 5 hours from New York. So I figured I'd be very close and still be able to go back and forth to take care of all the things that I needed to take care of. But it was during that time that I was made an instructor in my field of communications.
Okay.
That was my first taste of actually teaching. I was teaching officers. I was liking it. Found out, I guess, from them that I was pretty good at it.
Okay.
And the environment was good. So I figured, when you're coming up at about the 10-year mark in the military, I think that's really a tough decision that I think people have to make, because in my personal opinion, when you get to 10 years, if you re-enlist again, you're pretty much saying you're going to make it a career. So as I was approaching that time frame, I decided at that point, and if I go back, my son was born during that time, in 1992. So at that time is when I really decided that, number one, this was going to be a career, because I wanted to make sure that I utilized the Marine Corps as an opportunity to provide him with, everything that he could possibly, need and have that I may not have had when I was growing up.
Wow. Okay. So that's pretty good. In terms of your first day of training, was there any lesson that really stood out to you?
There were definitely a lot of lessons my first day of training. It was a culture shock, obviously. The yelling and screaming didn't bother me.
Really?
Didn't bother me at all. Again, being raised in South Jamaica Queens, New York, in a very rough area, the yelling and screaming definitely didn't bother me. I've been yelled at by brothers, sisters, parents, grandmothers, so that wasn't an issue at all. The physical training wasn't an issue. So I would think that the biggest thing was just a culture shock of being surrounded by so many different people from different backgrounds that I had never even thought about. And all of us learning and training together, you name it, Black, white, Hispanics, some people who could barely speak English,
Right.
all of us to be going through the exact same thing, striving to become the exact same thing. That was the biggest lesson, that it didn't matter, what color or what background you were from. Everybody was striving for the same thing.
Wow, you guys communicated in one language.
Correct.
Was it the same with the menu? Because you hear all type of stories about the type of foods you guys have, the routines and so on. And, can you shed some light on that?
And some people that's in the military or prior military, especially the Marine Corps, may think I'm a little strange for saying this, but the food was actually pretty good.
Okay.
And, between the food and, all of the physical activities that we did, as I said, I went there 113 pounds, but I left about almost 135, close to 140.
Wow.
So I packed on a lot of muscle weight. And it was because of the food and obviously the physical routine that we were going through.
Wow. Okay, so you've confirmed what was shared. And how about the disciplinary action? We've seen lots of movies, where you have to use the toothbrush to kind of clean the floor, or, please, this is the platform. Share with us.
And I would say we didn't use toothbrushes, but we used what we considered in the Marine Corps. We used a scuzz brush. It's a brush about this big, and although we had brooms, we didn't use brooms. Each of the recruits, and in my particular platoon, I think we started with about 75 individuals. We all used our little brush to brush the floor or the area where you were at, to get your mess up. And we cleaned our squad bays where we slept on a daily basis. Make your bed. All of these things that actually I did at home. So again, none of it to me was a shock at all. I couldn't leave my house growing up without making my bed.
In your bed. That was gospel right there. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yep, and clean shoes.
Yep. And every Saturday we got up and we cleaned the house, did our chores before we can go out. So that was nothing new.
Wow. So you are really being prepared for your destiny in a very unique way. That's amazing. So now you are in the Army, you are traveling, my apology, the Marine Corps, and now you're traveling and you're seeing other parts of the world. What is the takeaway? I don't want to say one thing, but the thing that is really a beacon that stands out to you when you travel the world, just doing, carrying out your purpose?
The biggest takeaway has always been such a greater appreciation for what I've had and what I have here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've been to so many places and seen, the way that people live, and the other takeaway from that is even in some of the places where it seemed like things were so bad for families and the struggle that they were going through, it was just like my family where, they were happy within their family. It didn't matter if they didn't have four walls, because I seen families that only had three walls and they would park their truck in front of the other portion to make the fourth wall.
Wow.
But they were happy every day.
Mm-hmm.
The father would go out and work, the kids would play. And that was something that always stuck in the back of my head, that circumstances don't matter. It's what you make of the circumstances that actually matter.
I would like you to say that again, please.
That circumstances don't matter. It's what you make of the circumstances that matter.
That matters. Wow. So in that, I would ask you to share with us. So you are the creator of the Elite Justice Success Group. Please tell us how that came about.
Well, when I retired in 2016, the first thing I told myself was I was never going to get a job and work for anyone else.
Okay.
I had made it to the highest enlisted rank that you could achieve in the Marine Corps. And I had been doing that for just about 9 years in the military. So I was at the highest rank for a very long time. And not that I felt that I was below working for someone. I just felt that I didn't want to. I had options because of the experiences that I had. And I utilized that with my wife, who was also a retired Marine. She served 23 years. And together we started the Elite Justice Success Group. And the basis of that is helping individuals and businesses to be able to find the leaders within them, as you see on the screen, and become them best selves, primarily by shifting their mindsets and changing their day-to-day activities to actually align with the things that they actually want to accomplish.
Wow. So who came up with the name?
I did. And I, as much as I think about it now, I don't even really know how I came up with it.
Okay.
It was, I think the two words that stuck in my head when I was thinking about it was elite, wanting to be the best of the best, and the justice part, because of course we've, for a while now, we've been going through a lot of injustices. I wanted something to where, whether it's again for an individual or for a business, that the product or the service that I'm going to be producing for individuals is something that, in a sense, they could also see justice in. They're going to get out of it what they want to put into it, and nobody else can control it.
Wow. How long has this organization been around?
We started at the end or the middle of 2017. The middle of 2017.
Wow. Well, you have been quite busy because you're also the founder, very much involved with SWAG, which I understand is the acronym for another organization. So if you could share with us what that is about as well.
Yes, SWAG is our new product, or our new baby. I call it my legacy project, which stands for succeeding with a goal.
Okay.
And
go ahead, please. No, go ahead.
That is where we really take a deep dive into my first book that I wrote, which is The Leader in You: 7 Steps to Unlocking Your Potential. And we've pretty much transformed that book, which is going to be transformed into an online course where we really do a deep dive into helping people, number one, understand who they actually are, find out what they want to be or become, and then set up things where they can actually have actionable steps that they can take to achieve those goals that they want.
So to you, your experience, and I mean, your experience is somewhat world, you have a world experience. What do you think is lacking in terms of the now generation, in terms of creating this particular program? And how do you think this program will help them?
Well, I think the key three things that, and I'm not going to say it's lacking in the younger generations, it's just helping them understand it. And those three things are, I refer to it as getting an MBA in life skills, which is mindset, belief, and attitude.
Wow. Okay.
And the way I look at it is, if we can get individuals simply to understand what type of mindset they have, because there are a bunch of mindsets, but the two that relate to most individuals are a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And we try to get everybody to encompass the growth mindset, where they believe that, with hard work, with effort, you can change your circumstances from where you were at. And then we transfer that into, helping them understand that they have to have a true belief in whatever it is that they want. Because until that is built inside their core and they believe everything they're doing and they know their why of why they're doing it, then they're never going to take the action steps necessary to make the adjustments they need if they don't truly believe it. And the last is just simply attitude. You have to have that positive attitude. I stay clear of all negative energy. I'm a very positive person, and I try to teach people that, they're in complete control of the attitude they have. People wake up, they say that they wake up in a bad mood, where they're choosing to be in a bad mood.
Right.
You can flip the switch and change your attitude at any given time. And I like to tell people, just smile more. Because, if you look at anyone and you tell them to truly smile to the point where they feel it, it's really impossible to smile and be upset at the same time.
At the same time, right? That would be like muscle confusion of some sort. Yes. So the program, is it available to ex-con, or is it there a pre-screening, or is it open to anyone who has an interest?
Yes, once we officially launch Swag, it's going to be open to everyone. I was very fortunate to get news a couple of days ago that my course itself was accepted to a brand new online platform called Acera. They're actually gonna, fly me to a location somewhere, film the entire course, edit it, produce it, and it's gonna go on their platform, which is gonna go global. But then another version of that same course is what I'm going to be offering to the entire public, those individuals that don't get access to that actual platform.
Wow. Do you have more information about Acera Group?
Yes. I was very fortunate. The company went into pre-launch in March, and I was very fortunate to become a founding member of the company. And pretty much what I consider Acera in terms of the online educational portion is, I consider it the Netflix of online education.
Wow.
It's basically where, anyone will be able to go onto this platform if they get their subscription, just like Netflix, and be able to tap into, the best of the best trainers out there with the best information. Not necessarily the best known individuals.
That's right.
We found out that there are a lot of, individuals with great names and great backgrounds, but don't necessarily have the information that's going to transform someone. So what Acera does is they go through a rigorous screening process, and they pick individuals based off of their content after checking them out thoroughly, and approve them. And I was, again, very fortunate to get approved this past Thursday.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
That's good. That is amazing.
Very
Absolutely amazing. So tell us what we're looking at here on the screen.
This is my website to my book, The Leader in You,
Right.
where individuals can go and pick up a copy of the book. As you can see, I was, one of the pictures that he just went by, I was very fortunate to take a picture with Damon John at
Yes.
one of the 10X growth conferences. Him being from Queens also, we was able to make that connection.
Right.
It was great to have him take a picture with the book. But it's really, everything that I've done with the book thus far has been word of mouth advertising, letting individuals know about it right now. The book is being, I'm not going to say taught, but it's being discussed in about 5 different high schools through their ROTC programs, which I'm very proud of. So
Wow.
it's definitely a book that I wrote with the hopes and belief that it can just, change the trajectory of a young person's life to just get them on the right track.
Wow. 7 steps to unlocking your potential.
Yes.
Wow. Are you able to share a few of the steps just to kind of get the audience intrigued to go on over and purchase it?
And yes, and again, the first step that we talk about again is mindset, where we get the individuals to distinguish whether they have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. Fixed meaning that, they simply believe that, the reason people are successful might just simply be because of their background. They were born with this gift or talent. And I think most people, I would hope, think that that's just not the case. Because if you're truly going to be successful, even someone like Michael Jordan, who, questionably could be the greatest basketball player of all time, but he didn't get there because he was born with that gift.
Right.
He had an innate gift, but he still had to build on that gift. And that's what the growth mindset talks about. And we try to make sure that we steer them in that direction. Then we talk about belief that I've already spoken about. We talk about, getting them to change their attitudes and become in control of their attitudes. We also get them to start talking about affirmations, speaking in the present tense, as instead of saying, this is what I want to be, already claim it. Claim claim your spot at the table, your spot on the field, or what have you, and say it each and every day. And then you add that belief level to it, and things will start happening. With that, we go into visualizations again, because I think if you can actually see something in your mind and adding that belief to it and the action it takes to make it happen, then it'll be a lot more clearer. And then the last 2 steps are understanding what failures are and understanding what that individual's particular failures are, and really not looking at it in terms of the way we all were taught to understand failure. I've learned and heard from a good friend and now mentor of mine, Dr. Obam Bowen, that the word fail, stands for first attempt in learning.
Wow. Yes.
Yes. So that was very powerful to me. And I added that in my book because when I really look back at it, every so-called failure that I had was just a true learning experience. And if I learned the lesson from that, I was able to then move on and become successful in something. And I found that, anything that I really put my heart and soul into, and I had a plan of how I was going to get there, I never failed. But when I didn't have a plan and I didn't have goals, which is the final chapter of the book, goal setting, I didn't have those goals set in a plan, then chances are I didn't reach the goal that I wanted.
Wow. So please, what's the link in terms of where persons can purchase this book?
They can get it directly at my website, The Leader in You 365, and that's the number 365.com. And they can also go directly to my website, theveneycochran.com.
Wow. And I encourage everyone who is listening and who will listen after, please get this book, 'cause this is foundation. And with the correct foundation, you can only build up. You can only go up. I must say, I commend you for expressing about the importance of failure, because most person, when they get to that wall or that door or, just the end, they give up and
Oh
not
yeah.
realizing it's a mindset change in terms of how to go beyond now, how to be creative. So again, please, I encourage everyone who's listening to get that book. So you are retired and you're a family man, and I know you have a heart for children.
Yes.
And so I'm going to ask you just to express a little bit more about the heart that you have to reach out to children.
Well, it all goes back to, when my son was born, in
Mhm.
1992. Now, my son's mother and I didn't work out, but
Mhm.
he's always been the individual that's been my inspiration to do everything. And
Okay.
because of my time in the military, obviously I didn't get to spend all the
Mhm.
time that I wanted with him. So my thing was I needed to make sure that if nothing more, I could be the example for him to look up to and follow.
Mhm.
Um, and that has led me into, of course, trying to be the best father I could be for him is being engaged in, activities or programs with youth. And I was very fortunate, again, as I would even say blessed,
Mhm.
that became part of, two different programs here in our local area in North Carolina. One is called the Magnanimous Mentoring Program, and the other is MINAC. And they kind of put these two programs together, two incredible gentlemen that started these programs. And what we would do is go into the school system here in our county and mentor the troubled youth, those
Mhm.
individuals that were kicked out of their traditional schools and weren't allowed back. And we try to get them on the right track, get them graduated if necessary, or get them back into the schools that they were put out of. And, it's been very rewarding
Mhm.
just to see some of the successes, but it's just a never ending battle because unfortunately there's so many young kids out there that
Yes.
need the assistance. The parents are doing all they can in a lot of cases, but it's always helpful when you have those extra individuals, male or female,
Female.
to
Mhm.
be able to step in and help in areas that the parents may not be seeing or realizing.
Wow. So the mentorship program is excellent. And when you see the children that have the need, what are you really seeing in terms of the culture exposure, or what's the reason? Is there an identified reason as to why the children are in that circumstance?
From what I've seen, especially in the last 3 years or so, what I've seen again is for a lot of them, they victimize themselves
Mm.
based off of the circumstances that they're in. Some of them believe that because of their household circumstance, where they may not have a lot of income coming into the home and
Mhm.
the parents can't provide the things that they want, that they have to go out there and take it,
Right.
steal it, or, sell drugs to get it. And we try to tell them and show them by our own experiences that we
Right.
don't have to do those things.
Hmm.
For us and just about everyone in the mentoring program I'm a part of, we're all retired military. And,
Okay.
we show them that side, but we also show them and tell them about where we grew up at, same circumstances they had, but we made choices that
Mhm.
guided us in the right direction. And we also, I know myself, had mentors.
Yes, yes. Good mentors are very important
Yeah.
they're very influential to a child's exposure.
Oh,
So I,
definitely.
I commend you again for being a part of this particular organization to help children. Because in truth, the children are our future. So
Yes.
you are exposed to children and are young adults, and they are considered to be at risk. So when they have gone through the program or the mentorship skill set that you guys offer them, what are some of the takeaway that they come back to share in terms of what I've learned or what I appreciate? Did you show them your bullet hole to say, listen, one of y'all shot me here?
Unfortunately, those are some of the questions that some of them ask. Some of the
Okay.
first questions, what was it like in combat?
Mhm.
And although we share some of those stories, we still want to, guide them away from, that type of thinking, but let them know that it's a reality. And for those that decide that they may want to join the military, regardless of the time frame that you may join, there's always the possibility that you can end up in a combat zone. And for me, when I joined in 1986, there were no wars going on. Combat was the furthest thing from my mind, but I found myself early on in my career, in some situations because I was part of a drug interdiction program where we went overseas, and tried to make sure that the drugs weren't coming into the country. So that, these are things that most people don't realize that the military has a part in. But that was my first experience in military combat. And
Right.
then, of course, the Iraq war and Afghanistan kicked off. I found myself in both of those places. So it's something that, we talk about, but we really try to get them to understand, the things we made it through in our upbringings, the failures we had. I had plenty of failures in my 30 years, and I've had a lot of people that told me that I was never going to make it to 30
Wow.
years or 20 years for that matter. And to, be able to stand at my retirement ceremony and know that there were people still out there that questioned whether or not I was going to make it. That made it that much more enjoyable to be able to retire.
Yes. I hope you send them a card.
Well, I didn't because, of course, I don't even associate with those people. I know they're still out there watching.
Right.
And again, my actions will speak a lot more than what I'll be able to write to them.
Oh, I think you have stamped in your action, you have stamped the message very clearly. So here you are, and you are retired. You're reaching out to young adults, and you have really put in the work. What would you tell your younger self? Here you are. What would you say to that young man? What would you tell your younger self?
The first thing I would definitely tell my youngest self is to keep my eyes open for the opportunities.
Okay.
I passed up several great opportunities because at the time I didn't realize they were opportunities, and I wasn't in the right place in my mind to be able to openly receive those opportunities and those blessings. So, if I had to do it all over again, I'd make sure that my eyes were wide open, and I jumped in with both feet. But again, those things that I didn't take advantage of really just helped and set me up for the things that I'm doing now. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't change anything,
Right.
because it's all part of the journey. It might have taken me a little bit longer to get to certain areas, but those extra steps that I had to take is just something that I can go back and tell a younger person that they might not have to take those extra steps that I took.
So I love what you just shared, and there was a question that is posed. A person entering have a great business idea, and they have gone into partnership with someone that they are familiar with, but things are not going as great as they hope. What advice would you have for that particular person?
Well, in terms of, if it's about a partnership, obviously, I think the first thing that an individual has to do is find out where the friction may be. Is it within that individual themselves, or is
Mm-hmm.
it the partnership they have? And again, the first thing is discovering where the issue is.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's you, obviously you have to fix yourself. If it's the partnership, you either figure out a way to where both entities can come together for
Mm-hmm.
whatever the goal of that business is, or
Mm-hmm.
you have to figure out a way to part and still do what it is that you want to do because you started it for a reason. I would say don't lose sight of whatever that initial reason was, even if you have to figure out another way to go about doing it.
Wow. And another question that came about has to do with the charity program that you work with the children. The success rate, or was there a group or a one particular child that came out of the mentorship program in terms of where they are today? Can you share that?
Well, yeah. And again, I don't know the numbers on the percentages of the kids, but I do know one young man in particular who was going through a lot of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
He had several pending court cases.
Mm-hmm.
In his last year of school, and basically he had a lot of choices to make. He was very fortunate, I think, because of being part of the program,
Mm-hmm.
where the judge kind of told him that he was putting him on probation, and basically the probation was if you step back in this courtroom for any reason whatsoever, you're going to be on some serious time. And I think that was a serious wake-up call for the individual. And I
Right.
think, the team that we had in place to be there to show him different things. I spoke to this young man it's been a few months since I spoke to him, but the last time I spoke to him, he was making sure he was staying out of trouble by working 3 different jobs.
Wow.
While he was waiting to go into the military. So I was, that's something that, if it's just that one kid that we were able to help, it's all worth it.
Yes. Yes.
Knowing where he could have been,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing him, I walked through the mall one day and I saw him working there, and he was sharing with me how he had to leave there and go to his second job. And I was just full of, joy, proud of him. And it's just a great feeling to know that you had, just a small impact on someone to help change the trajectory of their life.
Of their lives. Well, let's get into the last minute or so in terms of your life. You talk about your wife being your partner. Can you share a bit about your wife? How long have you been married? And perhaps send her a shout out?
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful wife. We've been married 23 years. And we met in the military. She's retired also, as I said. She served 23 years and decided to get out. And she currently works on the base as an instructor. So she's a teacher as well. And she's working on her doctorate in leadership. So everything ties in perfectly to what we're doing. When we met, I tell people it's kind of funny because when we met, we weren't fans of each other when we met. We were both young sergeants, and when we met, we kind of had a little argument. But I think it was that thing where they say opposites attract.
Yes.
So we became friends. We stayed friends for a while, and obviously, ultimately, that led to us actually getting married twice in the same year.
Oh, you got to share that story.
What I mean by that is we were both serving as drill instructors, training those young recruits as they came into boot camp. So we didn't have a lot of time. We literally saw each other, maybe 2, maybe 3 days out of the week. So we decided that, we wanted to solidify our union, so to speak. So we got married at the Justice of the Peace, and then started planning a wedding for the end of the year. So, the initial wedding was in January, and then we had a wedding with our families in December at the end of that year.
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh. How did you propose?
Wow.
Yeah. How did you
Uh,
propose?
we were on a deployment. We were on a deployment, and I was leaving first from the deployment, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that is when I proposed as I was leaving. So the unfortunate thing is when I proposed, didn't get to see her for a few months after that.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
but it again, everything worked out. Of course, she said yes, and everything worked out.
So I noticed you shared the end result, but I would like to hear, and the audience would like to hear the meat and potato. How did you propose? Were you on your knees? Was there flowers?
No, there was. I remember there wasn't any flowers, and no, I was not on a knee. I think that romantic part of me was not there,
Okay.
but I do remember we had we've gotten a break, and we were, I think, in our hotel room where we were staying.
Mhm.
And I'm not even sure what I said.
I
Um,
should call her on now.
and she remembers everything. So, but I do remember that it was something that I knew I wanted, because after my previous relationship with my
Mhm.
son's mother, I had actually said that I wasn't even considering getting married again.
Okay.
It was the furthest thing from my mind, but again, we became very close friends.
Mhm.
Had so many things in common. Our backgrounds we had in common. You
Mhm.
know, so it was a perfect mesh. So I figured this is something that I want to continue, and I was very fortunate that she said yes, and she's been that number one supporter of everything I've done,
Mhm.
and and I'll say it here live because she knows I don't congratulate her enough, for
Mhm.
all the things that she's done and that she's continually doing.
Mhm.
Again, being retired, still working a full-time job while pursuing her doctorate, um,
Mhm.
and everything she helps me do with the business. When we were traveling, every chance she got to travel with me, she was always right there. So she's been right there 100% in my corner.
Mhm.
And probably if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we're doing now.
That you're doing. Wow. So I think this may be the last question. How did you know she was the one? What was the awakening moment?
Um, it was definitely, it's that feeling you get inside. They say um, when you're thinking about someone, obviously, you know, every waking moment, when it's the person you think about when you wake up, the person you think about before you go to sleep, then, just almost like a business. If that's something that you're constantly thinking of, that's
Mhm.
something you should be doing. So that was it. It was just something internal, that feeling you get that is almost unexplainable, where you
Mhm.
decide, this is the person.
Wow. Well, you've expressed it very well. And I noticed behind you, the wall is well decorated. And I know you guys are a union. So can you share with us the the degree certifications, the
Yes.
wall of accomplishment behind you, please?
Yes, behind me is the two larger diplomas. Back there are the bachelor's degree for my wife,
Mm-hmm.
that she got in psychology, her master's, which was in leadership, and as I said, she's working on her doctorate in leadership.
Mm-hmm.
The two that I don't think you can see, at least from my screen, we have coaching certificates from a good friend and mentor of ours, Dr. Obam Bowen, where we went through one of his phenomenal programs
Mm-hmm.
on coaching, one of his programs, which is called Today is the Day, which has really been the what really kickstarted me on this journey. Had it not been for, Dr. Obam Bowen and his wife, I probably would have been pretty content with just retiring.
Right.
But shortly after that, he actually called me up, told me that he was just simply willing to help me achieve whatever goals that I wanted to achieve in business, because he felt that I had helped him severely, in one of his darkest moments in life. So he and his wife has been a beacon of light for me and my wife. I'm fortunate to be the godfather of his daughter.
Wow.
So, everything that we're accomplishing now, within our business, so much of it has to do with Dr. Obam Bowen and his wife. And again, pushing my wife to keep going where there's been times where, she may have wanted to stop and quit because of everything that's going on. But again, she's, working on the last class before she goes into dissertation. And then I'll be, calling my wife doctor.
Oh, wow. A man who honors his wife publicly and privately, you are definitely a true gentleman. I would like to say thank you again for accepting our invitation, and all the audience. You have a fan club here. You have a fan club. Oh my goodness. You have a fan club who just keep reiterating just how great you are and how much, positive influence you have stapled in our community. I would like to say to everyone who has joined us on the Now Talk Show, the Now Talk Show is sponsored by the Alabaster Wellness Clinic, where we specialize in clinical counseling, integrative medicine, and trichology. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today on another great program with another distinguished gentleman, Mr. Veney Cochran. Thank you so very much for joining us on the Now Talk Show. Do you have a final word that you would like to share?
Only thing I close out with is I want to close out with a poem, if I may, that I wrote a little while ago. And it's really to get individuals to simply try to start truly believing in themselves. And the name of the poem is called Believe. And it's awakened from the darkness, I have come to realize that in a mass state of confusion, your mind will not survive. There will definitely come a time in your life where you must step out on faith, or you continue to live your life in the darkness and be trapped in that lonely place. Your mind is there to be the light you see in all you want to achieve, but to accomplish your goals and get out of the darkness, at first you must believe.
Wow. Wow. And where can they get this? Because I have a feeling there's a link to a link to a link. If not, well, please make a link to it.
Yeah, that actual poem is inside my book.
Okay, again, please tell them where you can get the book and what page that poem is on.
To get the book, you can go to the leaderinYou365.com or to my website, theveneycochran.com. And again, that particular poem is in, I'll tell you the exact page.
Please do, because they need to get it and go right to that.
Yes, that is in my book, chapter 3, page 51.
Well said. Thank you so very much for joining us, everyone, on the Now Talk Show. I am your host, Dr. Nadine Wong. Again, your time is the most important thing you could ever share with us. So I thank you so very much for sharing your time this evening. Good morning, good afternoon, and have a wonderful day. Again, Veney Cochran, thank you so very much for joining us on the Now Talk Show.
Thank you for having me.
And we say good evening.
Good evening.